Good afternoon. Welcome everybody to the meeting of the Adult Services Panel. And if I can ask everybody in the Lillian Hopkin room to introduce themselves for the benefit of those online. Shall I start? Convener of this committee, Councillor Sue Jones, representing Gowerton.
Yes, Alan Jeffrey, Councillor for the Uplands Ward.
Councillor Paxton Hood-Williams, Fairwood Road.
Amy Hawkins, Head of Adult Services and Tackling Poverty.
Cathy Murray, Principal Officer for Adult Service Provision.
Councillor Louise Gibbard, Cabinet Member for Care Services.
Dave Powers, Director of Social Services.
Tony Bello, Independent Member of the Scrutiny Panel.
Liz Jordan, Scrutiny Support.
Thank you, everybody. Item 1, Liz.
We've received apologies from Michael Locke and Cabinet Member Alison Anthony, Chair.
Thank you. Can I ask for disclosures of interest if there are any? And Liz will email you the template. Are there any? No, thank you. Item 3, Sorry?
Yes, Chair, I'm a daughter who works for social services.
Thank you. Where's his hand? I can't see it. Thank you, Chris. I can't see your hand. Sorry.
Sorry.
Item 3, prohibition of whipped votes and declaration of party whips. Are there any comments? Thank you. Minutes of the previous meeting. We met on the 9th of July, which seems ages ago. Okie dokie. So I go to page 1, page 2, page 3. I'll go to the letters on page 5, page 6, page 7, and the letter from Cabinet Member, page 9, page 10 and page 11. Your silence, I assume that it's a true record of what happened. Thank you all. Now we go to item 5, public question time.
No questions received, Chair.
Thank you. Oh, we're bombing through this, aren't we? Item 6, update on the progress of the Wales Audit Office, missed opportunity social enterprise. I assume Lee is ready to speak on this one. Lee, welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to just dive straight into it to keep momentum going. Although my colleagues in the room might want to join me as well. Yes, so afternoon, everyone. This is an update on our progress that we've been making around the response to the Audit Wales report that was published in December 2022, which was entitled A Missed Opportunity. That report was looking at how local authorities across Wales are currently working to promote, grow and make the most of social enterprises in their area. And just so that we're all on the same page, by social enterprises, we mean those businesses that are trading for social or environmental purposes. What the report actually said was there was a number of recommendations for work that local authorities can do, which included completing a self-evaluation of what we're doing today and developing an action plan on where we go from here. So to update Scrutiny on our progress on that, since we had the report and have been reviewing that internally within the council, we have completed that self-evaluation process. We have developed a missed opportunity action plan that combines the various items from the report that I presented today. But we're taking a lead really from work that's going on a regional level. There has been development work on a regional social enterprise and micro enterprise framework through the Regional Partnership Board. So basically a lot of our actions are going to follow on from the work that has been happening at a regional level, of which we've been a part of course. And to make sure that we continue to comply alongside that with our the requirements of the Section 16 of the Social Services and Wellbeing Act, which just talks around promoting development of social enterprises to provide care and support and preventative services. So in a nutshell, that's our current position. In the report that I'm presenting, we talk about the work that's gone on to date. A lot of work that's going on around procurement, commissioning and contracting sort of activities that, obviously make sure that we're embedding social value and the work of social enterprises. That opportunity comes forward from those options. Trying to put a local focus on social enterprises, and particularly under health and social care sort of elements. We've got good connections and good relationships with our partners in the third sector, with various organisations that are already doing elements of this work. So the report includes the sort of strategic level actions, such as developing the action plan and taking those things forward. But we are already kind of doing a lot of that work, and we're already linking in with things like our Social Value Forum, the other sort of Section 16 type organisations like micro enterprises, and we're looking at things like the data that we've got. So, for instance, we've been updating the information that we capture through the market stability reports to make sure we're clearly presenting what is going on for social enterprises. So, I mean, that's it in a nutshell. The report is really to provide information about the progress we're making in light of aligning with the regional work, and now looking at how we take that action forward, and in continuing to respond to Audit Wales recommendations. I presented the same information to the Governance and Audit Committee last week. So this is just an opportunity to provide Scrutiny with that update. And unless any of my colleagues wish to add anything, I'm very happy to answer any questions, Chair.
Well, yes. The light. Sorry. Hi. Sorry, Councillor Jeff Jones. If you got a question to ask.
Yeah, thanks, Ewan. Sorry you can't see the hands. Yeah, Lee, in Appendix A, you actually got a few points there with regards to social enterprises growing by 70% in Swansea. Gone from 135 to 158. Have there been any social enterprises that, shall we say, have started and not gone on, shall we say? And what are the reasons for that? And also as well, it actually says in there that social enterprises are actually worth 60 billion to the UK economy. How do you actually value a social enterprise? And have we got a value of social enterprises in Swansea?
Happy to come back on that, Councillor. In terms of the first part of your question, I probably would have to take that away and just double check and look at some case studies to see if we can give some examples of any of those social enterprises that have, as you've said, stopped and started, etc. So if you're happy, I'm more than happy to look into that rather than give you an answer today. In terms of the valuation of social enterprises, Audit Wales report does go into a little bit of detail about that in terms of how they estimate the total value. Obviously, there is a lot of information about forecasts and projections in that. They try to estimate based on the overall impact that the social enterprise can have, and they look at sort of the economic impacts, the environmental impacts, the impacts on the local communities, and so on. So it's quite a complex methodology that I've not been directly involved in, but there is a mechanism behind it, and that's kind of really coordinated across the UK. So yeah, really complex system, I'm sure.
Yeah, sorry to go on as well. It actually mentions about 2 million people employed in the UK economy or involved, shall we say. Have we got figures of how many people are actually involved in Swansea?
That's a good question, because actually that's part of the data element I referred to earlier, that we are trying to get more clear data in our reporting in terms of the impact of social enterprises. We're trying to build our relationships more to understand what opportunities there are out there, and identify where some of these things are going on, perhaps through our third sector partnerships and colleagues. So yeah, that's the area that obviously is part of our thinking going ahead now, is that we want better clarity of information to be able to present that back and show a more local impact. Like you can see, a lot of the stats are either at UK or Wales level. So having a better breakdown from a local perspective is something that we're keen to do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Lee. Are there any other questions for Lee? Tony?
Thank you, Chair. I've not had much chance to go through this particular paper in terms of the detail, but in terms of the methodology that's been applied, is there a particular methodology that's in use? I mean, for example, the one that I'm familiar with in this sort of territory is a methodology that determines the inputs, whether it's of staff or money or whatever, the outputs, then the processes that you use, and then finally, and this is the key bit, the outcomes. Does that get anywhere near the kind of application that you've applied to this topic?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, it's broadly the formula that we follow when we're doing these sort of evaluations, and the information that we collated to do this sort of self-evaluation about where we are now was based predominantly on, what have we got today, what are our relationships, what's our information, and what are the outcomes that we want to achieve. The reason why it looks a little bit unclear perhaps in that regard is because, again, we've been really working in partnership at the regional level across health and social care colleagues, etc. So we're trying to get the framework right first, to then work out what are the outcomes we need to develop, and therefore work on our partnerships and relationships with social enterprises to deliver those outcomes. So longer term, that's absolutely the generic formula we'll be following. For right now, I think it's about assessing and identifying where we are today, and then working on a plan to take it forward, which is hopefully where the action plan will evolve a little bit over time. I hope that answers the question, but yeah, it is a complex approach, given that social enterprises is kind of very important to the work we're doing in health and social care, and we want to be more actively involved in some of that work.
So
Yes.
yeah, just so I'm clear, the main driving force of this, among many partners with different interests, is the outcome element, correct?
Yes, so we want to see social enterprises delivering better outcomes for people and communities. We want to, through partnerships and partnership working, make sure that individual organisations and projects and initiatives have a better chance of success. So absolutely, there is an opportunity here for us to work closely with third sector colleagues and other colleagues in health and social care to deliver better outcomes for people. We just need to work through that process to get to that point.
Thank you, Lee. Any more questions? Chris, you've got your hand up.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Lee. Obviously, social enterprise is quite important, and in many parts of the country, and I'm thinking of a couple in that I've actually visited in the north of England and the northeast, is that they take on some of the responsibility of local authorities, but also on top of that, they're also businesses in their own right, which do not have any connection to councils or voluntary sector. I'm thinking more of firm organisations like Big Bob's Movers in Liverpool, and about there's another organisation, I think it works in Birmingham, about self-help for people starting small micro businesses, that type of thing. When we do this collation of organisations in Swansea, will it be available on some sort of chart that we can actually see, and then look at how we can, if you like, put people in a position that they can contact them?
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, that's exactly what we kind of want to work towards, is to have better visibility and accessibility to these opportunities. I'm thinking of examples like the Down to Earth project down in Gower, a great social enterprise. Again, making sure that information is available and we can point people in the right direction who would benefit from that. Obviously, we've done a lot of work from a social care point of view to link in with that for things like providing care services that supplement what we do in the council. So a big part of this as well will also be identifying the gaps where there are potential opportunities for new social enterprises to move into, and again, supporting them not only to be set up and working collaboratively with us, but also to build on their successes and the lessons learned from other social enterprises as well. So it's a big collaborative piece of work potentially that's got lots of potential to it.
Thank you, Lee. Okay, Chris?
Yeah.
Amy?
Can I just come back and just add SCVS, Swansea Council Voluntary Services, who are doing work for us. We commission them to do work to support social enterprises and micro enterprises. And on their website, there is a directory of micro enterprises, particularly around health and social care. So that is being, but the work Lee talked about there was bigger than that. I suppose it's broader, but just that some information is available already.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Cheryl, you've got a question?
Yes. Lee just mentioned the social enterprise Down to Earth down in Gower, which I know that they support a lot of people. But I'm just wondering whether, I mean, what they do is build houses. Now they're building houses, but not in Swansea. They've built some, haven't they? I can't remember, somewhere down in Gower. So, but do they link in with other parts of have we got joined up thinking with other parts of our council? For example, you know, with our council build for new properties, you know, are they linked in with our housing regeneration? Because I don't see anything, you know, when we have reports, I don't ever hear them being mentioned. Sorry.
I'm happy to come back initially on that, Councillor, but other colleagues may have better insight than I do. I certainly think that that's exactly what the Audit Wales report was trying to tell us, was there are opportunities that we're missing out by not connecting better with social enterprises that are doing that sort of work. So absolutely, you know, Down to Earth is one that we are familiar with, and there are opportunities for us to connect to, but there are lots out there that we're not aware of, or that we could be building better relationships with, either through the third sector or directly through departments and teams within the council. So it's an example of where, yeah, absolutely, we can be doing more, and that the action plan is designed to kind of improve that relationship and ways of working with those social enterprises.
Okay, Cheryl. Thank you, Lee. I've just got a question. Do the new enterprises actually link in with the grants that are available through business in the city and county?
I know they are supported by the likes of SCVS, as Amy alluded to there. So there's plenty of advice and support. Welsh Government provides some as well, I think, to make sure that new social enterprises have the right advice and information to get started. I think this is, again, an opportunity where we could potentially do some engagement work, look at opportunities, look at ways of connecting them in with what's going on in our world, to connect the council's developments closer to those social enterprises, so that we see those opportunities come in and we can build that in. But yeah, there is information out there for social enterprises, and Social Enterprise UK is another one of those organisations that provides lots of advice and guidance for new social enterprises.
Thank you, Lee. Are there any other questions? Paxton?
Thank you, Chair. And just a quick one. Social enterprises and micro organisations were mentioned in one breath there. Now, my understanding, micro organisations basically are profit-making bodies, generally speaking. What are we looking to do in that respect? Are we just looking to coordinate or bring people together?
In terms of micro enterprises, yeah, there's a slight difference in the definition between social enterprise and micro enterprises. They tend to be much smaller and kind of like freelancers and things like that. So again, they have an opportunity to deliver some really good outcomes for us, but in a slightly different context. And this is why, under the Section 16 development work, we've tried to combine all of those different types of organisations together, so that when we've got potential opportunities or the chance to work with different organisations at different levels, we're not pigeonholing anyone and saying we're only working with you lot. We're able to use that broader definition that our regional framework has developed to kind of open it up a little bit more and look at these different organisations to see what is best fit for what we need, or what the community needs, as it were. So yeah, there's quite a few different variations, CICs, like say freelance work, etc. So we're trying to just put those definitions in place so that everybody understands how these different organisations can work together.
Are there any other? Thank you, Lee. Are there any other questions? And I thank you, Lee, for your presentation and look forward to the information that you're going to put forward for scrutiny to look at. Thank
Thank you very
you.
much, Chair. Thank you.
We go on to item 7, which is the Care Inspectorate Wales for Adult Services. Who's leading?
Yeah, I'll just make some introductory comments if I can.
Lovely,
Thank you,
thank
Chair.
you.
So, yeah, last panel, we just had the inspection, but we weren't able to share the full report. So really happy. Hopefully, everyone's had a chance to have a good look at that now and this summary that's been provided. So just first and foremost, put my thanks on record to Helen, to Amy, and to Lucy Friday for leading on the inspection, and of course to all of our adult services teams for their ongoing work supporting people across Swansea, which is reflected in this report. So obviously, as I mentioned before, the areas that CIW were looking at and the scope of the inspection then was to look at people's voice and control, prevention, well-being and partnership working. And you can see that as in the summary of the findings that, some really good positive practice found, and it makes really pleasing reading. It's really good to see the emphasis that they've made on collaborative communication, our person-centered focus, on that partnership working, mention again there of SCVS we've just been talking about, and how all of our teams are working together to support our communities. In terms of the areas in which we must and should make improvements, I think all of these are things that we're aware of, the things that we've discussed at this panel previously. They are a huge challenge in the current circumstances, with the levels of demand and the pressure on resources, and they do include things like carers reviews, delays in assessments, waiting times. I think as we're well aware from our data over the previous months. So included there on page 30 is the action plan. Hopefully you'll agree that it's robust. It's including a lot of activities that we've already got in train. As you know, we've talked before about the restructure of our assessment and care management team, which has been under development for a year, 2 years, a a while now. So that's kind of getting going. But yeah, so I'll hand over to Helen and Amy if they wanted to pick anything more out. But yeah, so I'll hand
Thank
it
you,
over.
Louise. Thank you, Louise.
I don't mind going first. I suppose just in terms of I'm going to say some similar things to Councillor Gibbard. I think one of the pleasing things for us was that the inspectorate did appreciate the context that we were working within at the moment, particularly in terms of the volume of demand and the added complexity of presentation that we were seeing. So that was helpful. It was quite felt like quite a realistic lens that they viewed us through. They also acknowledged our transformation programme and really the scale of the challenge that we've got in terms of some of the musts and shoulds, particularly in terms of the financial context at the moment. So it was helpful really for us that they did see it in that lens. I've got the same positives from it that Councillor Gibbard drew out. I think just really in terms of some of the must and should areas, just going through the plan, it links really closely to our transformation plan and to our financial recovery and our financial that plan really, and it links with our service sort of drivers of those 3 Ps of prioritising resources, promoting reablement and enablement, and also early help and prevention at the earliest opportunity. So I suppose really I haven't really got anything I particularly wanted to add, but I'm content to take any questions. Certainly, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, can I just add
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you. A final thing, just in terms of the performance. So we've given you an action plan at the end, as Helen said and Louise have said it. We've already got action in progress. Some have completed already, but you'll see there's deadline dates for all those actions of our musts and shoulds, things they'd like us to do and things we absolutely must do. And we're also giving you some information about the performance monitoring and what that looks like. So particularly around the performance monitoring, you'll see some deadlines. So the performance and financial management report, which you get quarterly here at Scrutiny, you'll see that's been updated now and will incorporate these actions. So you'll be able to track them through a scrutiny. And yeah, so they're and I do, whilst the shoulds and musts are our actions, I also will end on a positive, but I just think it's really good that they highlighted 9 areas of positive practice. And particularly we're interested in us sharing some of these wider as well. So we'll obviously take those through our relevant sort of partnerships and forums. And they also identified a couple of areas of positive, I'm trying to find the exact wording they use. It's not positive practice, but positive reflections as well. So just to finish on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Helen.
Just one more comment. We've been talking about the restructure for 2 years, and we keep it's our best hope for the future. It goes live on Monday. So we've been talking about it a lot and saying a lot of these things will be addressed by the restructure. A lot of these things will fall out of the restructure. It goes live on Monday. We've come hell or high water, by hook or by crook, we're going live on Monday with the Adult Services Assessment and Care Management restructure. So that will be the catalyst for a lot of the care management and support issues to start to work through in terms of our best hopes around the restructure. So Councillor Gibbard's quite right. It's been a long time coming, but it's Monday is the go live date.
Look forward to it. Thank you. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Louise. Are there any questions? You haven't got a question?
Right. Just thinking of it, like, well, it seems like it's the ideal time to bake a cake and light the candle.
Are there any questions with anybody? Paxton.
Just a comment, if I may, Madam Chairman. I was looking at that list there, basically in terms of 3-4 in particular. And when I look back at the letter, that last letter that we sent to the cabinet members, at least 3 of those items were mentioned there specifically the same way. And obviously it's something that we will need to keep an eye on, but also what we were saying then is that we need to get the information coming forward in the performance report so we can see the trends there.
Thank you for that.
Thanks, Chairman.
I'm sure Liz is keeping an eye on things on that score. Yeah. Are there any other questions with anybody? Chris, you've got a question?
It's more of a comment, the same thing as Paxton was saying. Having looked at the things that we must do and the positive practices, I think a lot of the positive practices are really good. I think some of them areas where we should and must improve. I think we're on that journey now, and I'm not sure how accurate at the days that list of should and must do is, and I just think that we are on that journey, and I look forward to the reaction from going live on Monday.
Thank you for that. Okay. Any other questions? Dave.
Yes, I can just make a comment, Chair. I think one of the great strengths of Swansea, and the inspectors did pick up on it, was the extent to which we are open and transparent about knowing our business, and this scrutiny committee contributes to that. So as some of the members have said, there's a good synergy between things that the inspectors picked up on, and then your recent reflections on things that the committee has picked up on and played back to us as the senior management team and the cabinet member as the responsible cabinet member. That is a great strength of Swansea Council. We should be proud of that. The inspectors really laboured that point. When they came in, the initial presentation that they received was an open and transparent self-assessment of where we thought we were at, both in terms of the things that we're proud of, the challenges that we know that we face, and the plans that we have in place to take those things forward. There weren't any surprises in the feedback from the inspectorate. Again, that's a great strength, because knowing your business, being open about that, always being humble about, we're never the best that we can be. We're always striving to be the best that we can be. I don't think we should lose sight of that. So a thanks and congratulations to the panel as well. The inspectorate comment that they do play back, if they're not directly sitting in and observing live streams of this panel, they do watch the streams of this panel, and again comment very positively on that as being one of the strengths of Swansea Council as well. So I just wanted to make that point.
Thank you. On behalf of us all, thank you. Okay, we'll go on to item 8 now, which is residential care briefing. Who's going to be leading on this one?
Yeah, I've just got a quick comment because, as you said, this is a report and to update you on the current situation, kind of explain the context around our residential care offer, both in-house and commissioned care. It's a very thorough and technical report outlining all the key duties and legislation regarding residential care, something which I know individuals and families, can find difficult to understand, and at a difficult time when obviously a loved one is perhaps moving into care. I'm anxious about misrepresenting any of the technical details, so happy to hand over to Kathy or to Peter, who's online, if they want to take us through. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Louise.
Probably Peter's the best person to get through the technical
We're all
bits.
in the back.
Welcome,
Particularly from
Peter.
a commissioning point of view.
Yeah, welcome,
Yeah.
Peter.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, no problem. Okay, so in response to the request for a briefing, the report provides an overview of the features really that shape the residential care arrangements. So the report focuses on arrangements for older people and describes arrangements for externally commissioned then and both internal care services as well. Section 1 provides some information about the number and the type of homes and the overall number of beds that are available. The majority of our capacity in Swansea is external. We've got 1,500 or so beds at private homes compared to a little over 150 internal beds. Section 2 of the report explains that the legal duty to provide care home services is linked to the individual's right to choose their care home, and so competitive tendering is not the best way of securing services. Instead, we contract with all services that have a lawful registration and meet certain quality tests at contract application stage and are prepared to accept our fee rates. There's some information at sections 3 and 4 about our approaches to understanding quality and managing performance of our care home services. So under these sections, the report explains that some of the contract management and contract monitoring arrangements that exist to ensure that services are safe and operating lawfully and meeting needs and so on. We've got a small contracting team for older adults, so one contracting lead and 2 contract monitoring officers, and they act as a conduit really for others to share information with, and they'll use that information to assess each provider's performance and agree any actions that are necessary to achieve improvements and so on. In most cases, issues are resolved informally. In certain cases, there are more formal contractual action that's required, and where contract management action has not resolved those problems, homes may be placed under our escalating concerns processes. That's more formal guidance issued by WAG under Section 7 of the Local Authorities and Social Services Act. And that provides a framework really for a coordinated multi-agency response to managing any underperformance. But currently we don't have any services that are under those arrangements. Section 4 describes how the contracting team will work alongside a number of other teams that have a performance management or quality assurance function, and we use that information provided by each of those teams to understand what's happening at each setting. Where concerns are raised, the team will work with the department and with the provider to put things right. So examples of other teams and processes that I've referred to within the report include care management teams and safeguarding teams and corporate complaints teams and the CIW, but the list I provided is not an exhaustive one. Others include the Health Board's long-term care team, for example, the Environmental Health Department, the Emergency Resilience team of the local authority, the fire service. There's lots of other organisations that will work alongside to make sure that our care home services are performing adequately. And I think at 4.11, I've provided some information that explains a little bit about the regional quality toolkit that we've developed for care homes as well. That's an obligation under Part 9 of the Social Services and Wellbeing Act. That RQF requires providers to undertake a detailed self-assessment across a number of areas, and that self-assessment is used by commissioners to undertake a detailed quality assurance audit to validate the provider's self-assessment and where necessary make any recommendations to fully achieve the regional quality framework standards. We're currently doing about one of those a month. Section 5 sets out some of our approaches to understanding costs and managing financial stability of the sector. Explains that in 2012 we introduced a new fee setting process, which was developed in partnership with providers, and that helps us to arrive at a more informed understanding of costs and to set fee rates in a way that gives us more confidence in our capacity to ensure that services are sustainable and so on. Section 6, I think, touches on the issue of third-party top-ups. We know that care homes are commercial services and that they're often prepared to charge what the market will bear. And I've provided some information about the volume of beds which attract top-ups and the range of charges applied based on last year's audit. That's our most recent audit. This year's audit is currently underway, so those figures will shortly get updated. And at section 7, there's some detail about the legal powers and duties that apply to charging for our internal services. This explains the duty to carry out an assessment to ensure that a person is able to pay. That charging is necessary to support the council's strategic priorities and to ensure that services are sustainable. And the report also describes how work has been undertaken to create parity between the charges applied at internal homes and the fee rates which are paid to the external residential care homes. I'm not so much of an expert on those aspects. If you've got questions to ask about that, probably best to direct those ones to Kathy. And then at section 8, I've provided some information to explain that the council only commissions about 50% of the available care home capacity. And the remaining 50% is mostly self-funders. And care home operators will typically charge higher fees to self-funders. And so in that respect, I guess care home operators have scope to adjust revenues to ensure their viability, and which I think is an important point. And then at section 9, I've just can set out a summary really of the conclusions that I won't go through individually. So that's the report in summary. And likewise, I'll do my best to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Peter. Kath, do you want to add to anything?
Well, thank you for Peter for going through the report, and really just from the in-house residential services, again, we try and ensure we're aligning to the same processes, but obviously some slightly different governance because we're under the council, and we obviously follow our policies and fees and charges from that side and our quality. But again, we're under regulation, CIW, just as external residential services are. So again, we make sure that we adhere to all of the regulations and collate information, but rather than through contracting process, we do it through our own quality assurance processes as well, but use CIW a lot as the basis for that. So otherwise we try and align exactly to the same approach, but obviously under council policies.
Thanks, Kath. Amy, do you want to add anything?
No, thank the team, I suppose. Not no, sorry, yes, I've always got something to say. No, I wanted just to highlight, so just as Pete said at the beginning, it gives you the context of how many homes we've got in Swansea. So there's the 36 private homes, 5 internal. We have a different offer really in terms of internal, so we're offering the reablement beds, the hospital, home from hospital reablement beds, and also from the community into sort of temporary beds to support people to reduce the need for that long-term care. We're offering respite and some long-term complex care internally as well. Externally, there are respite beds as well. I'm not saying that's unique to us, but that's one of our core offers. We also internally provide a place of safety bed as well, so we always have one of those available every night of the week where needed, where we have to do emergency placements for people. So there's just that sort of difference between the homes. And I just, so we included the funding information as well, because we thought that would be is very keenly relevant, I suppose, at the moment. And just in terms of how many of those homes or how many of those beds across Swansea we're contributing towards, and that has increased as well, just to highlight that.
Thank you, Amy. Right. Right, okay, I got Tony. Tony, do you want to ask your question first?
Thank you, Jay. It's not so much a question, it's an observation, really. As I was listening to the presentation, I was reminded about a thing called the Integrated Care and Accommodation Scheme. This arose largely by the driving of Peter Marr many years ago, and it was based in Gosainen. and it was a joint venture between social services and the health authority. I know that because I was running the health authority to a large degree. And the idea behind it was that various individuals who were needing different residential accommodation as a result of whatever had happened in life could be placed in that facility, and as their condition altered and in some cases deteriorated, the facility would automatically react to the different needs and the increasing needs. The general practitioners in the locality played very well. The NHS staff and the community staff operated pretty well, and of course the social work team operated exceptionally well as well. And I don't think we did much more with that model, not because it didn't work, but because it did work in many ways, and everybody seemed very happy with it. But I just wondered if there's a place for that in the world that we're in now, where somebody doesn't have to keep getting moved about the system in order to deal with this, that, or the other problem. And if anyone knows about that scheme and is wanting to look it up and pursue it, then I'd be very interested in commenting on it. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Who's going to answer that?
I don't know the specific scheme you're talking about, but I think our people might want to come in about our different commissioning approaches. But in terms of the market needs assessment, we look at the market and what's required in terms of the different accommodation needs and look at different commissioning models. So whether that's support home, whether that's residential care, whether that's amount of respite beds, or whether that's the amount of nursing care as well. So having those opportunities, I think what you were describing was almost they're in one site, aren't they? So people can kind of move between the services. Extra care is another option we have as well, where people are in accommodation, but then care comes to them in the accommodation. So more, I suppose extra care or independent living as we provide. So just when we do the market needs assessment, I suppose that's what looks into that. I'm looking at PE, clearly can't. Yeah, you won't know I'm looking at him, but I don't know if he wants to know, if he wants to come in on anything there.
Yeah, no, I'm not familiar with that service either, so I would be interested to learn more about it. A lot of our operators offer tiered services, so care homes will offer residential care, residential dementia care, nursing dementia care, and that gives scope for people to have their needs met within one setting as their situation changes. Occasionally it is necessary for people to move from one care home to another, and part of the market stability report work that we do, which is about understanding the demand for future services, is so that we're in a position to be able to influence and shape the market so that we're better placed to meet increases in demand for particular types of care in the future. So that work will just continue to evolve. So as we spot the trends, as we identify the needs for particular types of services, as we spot skill shortages within the marketplace, that puts us in a stronger position to influence and shape the market. So less of that movement is required. But I'd certainly be interested to learn more about those integrated accommodation services. So any information that Tony might be able to share with us about that, we'd be gratefully received.
Okay, Tony, you want to come back?
I think you'll find deep in the annals of the local authorities records, Peter Marr's footprints will be, fingerprints will be over it. I'm sure there's a record of the development somewhere, unless it's all been destroyed. I'm trying to remember the name of his colleague, his number two.
I think it was Priest at the time.
Sorry?
I think it was something Priest, wasn't it? At the time.
It was a man.
That's what I mean. Mr. something. I can't remember his name. Went to Ethan Talbot.
And anyway, he did the bulk of the work, and I'm sorry I can't recall, but it's a long time past.
Was it?
Oh, it was well over, probably getting up 15-20 years ago now. I'd have to look it back in the history, but the point about it was a joint venture between the two public bodies who using the different resources, whether it's in-house or addition or our neighbouring resources, as it were, in terms of GPs who were willing to play ball and other facilities that would come to the aid if the individual, if the resident's condition had deteriorated. And the whole point was that once a resident was in that facility, they wouldn't need to move anywhere else unless there was something absolutely catastrophic that had happened to them beyond what we'd already experienced. Because the building and its resources and the agencies would automatically bring in a service that will be needed for maybe 4 to 5 months, 2 or 3 years. And the physical design would cope with most things, including steps and all the rest of it. But there were a variety of challenges that we thought we might face, and to some extent we did. I'll have to go back in my deep annals and see if I can
So
remember.
it does sound somewhat like the models we've developed in T Westfield, in T Wenaloedd, and also in the way that the Bonamine House offer has changed over the recent years in terms of wrapping an integrated health and social care response around keeping the residents safe where they are. It doesn't sound as if we've gone to the same lengths, but it sounds similar to that model in terms of both the T Westfield and the Bonamine House models are very much joint enterprises between the council and the health board, but it doesn't sound like quite that catch-all that you may be describing. I don't remember that. And I was definitely around then, so I don't remember that.
I'm sure you will. Chris, you've got a question?
It's a comment first about what has just been been talked about. If I remember rightly, Colin Priest was Peter Marr's deputy, or one of the deputies. Not sure if he was Children's Services or Adult Services. The system that you're talking about was based, if I remember rightly, in Gorsinan. I'll let Cheryl tell you about what it's spurned Hazel Court, which was a similar type of development, but housing association. There was one of the reasons that we didn't progress with it, or the social services didn't, was the actual infrastructure costs and the getting a building or getting a number of accommodation, which you could go from being able to move around it and be active, to actually being bedridden or being in a wheelchair in the same building. And that was the main problem. It wasn't so much the care services, it was the actual place that person lived and carried on living until, unfortunately, they passed away, or they moved into a catastrophic position where they couldn't stay. And that was one of the reasons, but that wasn't the reason I put my hand up. I would like to know more about the fees and costs, and especially the third-party costs and the top-up fees. Because one of the things I'd like to know is, how do we as a council identify when the top-up fees are justified? Because there are different places, different residences where top-up fees can widely change. I would like to know if there's for want of a better term, a menu or a matrix that would determine that it's right that charge goes to that particular premises, or there's a reason why we are paying a bigger top-up fee to one premise or another. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Councillor Holly. I'll try to answer that. I mean, the shorter answer is no. There's no sort of set of criteria, if you like, for awarding top-up charges. So, truthfully, care homes have the discretion, really, to apply whatever third-party top-up charge they like as a commercial enterprise. It's a free market economy, and it's a private arrangement, really, between the care home and the third party. So we have tried to do more to regulate those charges, but truthfully, it's been very, very difficult. So we're negotiating a new contract with care home providers, and as part of that arrangement, we had looked to introduce clauses that do more to restrict the level of top-ups that are applied. But actually, it met with wide-scale objection from care home operators and was subject to some legal challenge. And so we've had to row back on some of those provisions. I think there are a number of other local authorities across Wales that are experiencing this exactly the same problem. And CIW and Welsh Government are also aware that it's becoming a bigger and bigger problem, particularly as local authorities become under more financial pressure, and care home operators themselves are finding it a tougher climate in which to operate, I guess. So there is work being done at a national level to look at what might be possible, but locally we have very little power to control those third-party top-up arrangements.
I completely understand that, and I understand that it is a commercial venture, and as you said, there's 1,500 beds, but what I can't understand is that you will have one organisation which will say a top-up fee of say £100 a week, and then another organisation could be exactly the same facilities is charging more than £100 a week, and that's the bit I find quite ironic, that we have no, if you like, we have no opportunity to have a profit sharing or a open book discussion with these organisations. And I think if one of the things that, as a scrutiny board, one of the things that we could be actually saying is that maybe we should be saying to these providers, we accept that you've got to make money, you've got to pay for the premises, you've got to do these things, but at the same time, you shouldn't be ripping the public off by making a top-up fees which are unrealistic, and in many ways are designed to accommodate certain groups of people. So I think, I know you can't do anything, Peter, about it, but I think at some stage in the future there should be some form of political action taken by the Welsh Government or UK Government to address this problem, and at the same time would probably address the problem of the salaries being paid to people in care homes and right across the care sector. Thank you.
Yep, strongly agree.
Thank you both. Cheryl, you've got a question?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. My question is also going to be about top-up fees, because I noticed that 81% of the care home providers do charge a top-up fee, which leaves 19% that don't. Now, your report is very much, and quite rightly, it emphasises choice, the individual choice. But sometimes the individuals don't have that choice, because along with where they wish to go, they have to be assessed to see whether that establishment is appropriate for the needs that they have. So if we are contracting a place for that client and there isn't a care home that doesn't charge a top-up fee, so in other words, we are saying the only place that would be appropriate for you is X, and they charge possibly the top-up fee that you mentioned, which is horrific, of £245 or something like that. So what then happens to that individual? Do we then, because I'm thinking if the individual is at home and they need an extra support, then that's costing. If they're in hospital and they are taking up a hospital bed whilst waiting for one of the beds in the 19%, then we've then got a situation of bed blocking, haven't we? So as Chris and as you said, there's more, it's a much bigger problem than what it looks on paper. And bearing in mind, it was a government, I believe, that brought it in. But and also for the individuals who may be in one of the 19%, there's nothing to say that care home can't introduce a top-up fee at any point in the future. And if that person has been if they've had their financial assessment done, and it means that they are basically only having what is termed pocket money or needs left, which is it's a very small amount, then from that very small amount, it's either got to be family or friends, and you very quickly lose your friends if you were tied into having to pay for an individual's care. Then that is a very difficult situation, because that puts pressure on the individual maybe or somebody to be looking for another place, which if you're already in residential care, to be asked to move it's going to be heartbreaking, isn't it? People don't want to be moving. And the other issue that I do have concerns about is that when people are unable to pay the third-party fee, that the care home will, as you know, if somebody has to go into hospital, if they've been in hospital for 24 hours, then there has to be a reassessment of their condition to see whether they are able to go back to that original care home. So it would be very easy to say, for the care home to say, actually, we don't think it's appropriate for you to come back here. So then you've got somebody in hospital again. So I just think that this is a much more problematic issue than what we're seeing, as I say, on the face of it. And possibly I've said too much, Peter, and perhaps more than what you're able to answer, because you gave a good explanation to Chris. But I just wanted to make my feelings known on that basis, to be honest with you.
Yeah. In relation to the first point that you made about where there's no alternative for somebody, then the law is quite clear that we do have a legal duty actually to pick up that cost, and we do that. And then a number of placements that we're having to pay for are growing actually in recent months and years. In terms of your other points, you're right. I don't really have a solution, and we share the same views, and we're trying as hard as we can to manage the problem. As I said, we're not the only local authority that's struggling with the same issues. The number of other local authorities that are experiencing exactly the same problems, unfortunately, is growing. It is being looked at nationally. I'm hopeful that perhaps, as you say, Welsh Government will at some point arrive at a solution. Until then, we're just managing as best we can.
Thank you, Peter. Cheryl, thank you for your comments. Does anybody else want anything to add to that? Amy?
Yeah, just to come in around that availability of beds, I suppose, and those with top-up fees and those without. I suppose it is only 19%, as Peter said, but every couple of days and at least once a week, our team share those with our all our social work teams. So when people are being assessed for their care and support needs and going into homes, we regularly have those lists of those care homes with no top-up fees as well. And those that are, so people are very aware of the choices, as we mentioned the word choice they're making, but not obviously there's been a lot of comments made in addition to that, yes. But just to let people know we're tracking this very regularly.
Thank you. Dave, you want to add something?
Yeah, just a general point, not particularly on the subject. I just wanted to note how fortunately we are to have individuals like Pete leading on such complicated area of the council's business. I hope committee members were as impressed as I was in his presentation and his response. And of course, don't want to underestimate the complexity and difficulty of delivering these services as well. So I wanted to commend and thank Cathy and her team as well for the fantastic job that they do in providing services that the council can be extremely proud of. So just wanted to make that note, Chair.
Thank you, Dave. Are there any other questions? No. Can I just add my comments and thank everybody in social services doing a tremendous job. Thank you all. I think that closes the meeting. Oh, the work plan, sorry. Work plan. You're all able to go if you want to. Okie doke. We've got next meeting is on the 29th of October and we're looking at the Regional Partnership Board's mental health strategy and local area coordinators update and performance monitoring. So thank you all very much for attending, and I bring the meeting to a close. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks, sir.